My name is Sarah. I was 27 years old when I married Daniel. He was kind, gentle, and respectful. Everyone said, 'You are lucky. Sarah, he is a good man.' But deep inside, I knew a painful truth. I didn't love him. The proposal. Daniel and I met through our families. Our parents were friends. He had a stable job, a big house, and a good heart. My mother said, 'Sarah, love will come after marriage. He will keep you happy.' I wanted to believe her. I wanted to be a good daughter. So I said yes. But that night, when I looked at the ring on my finger, I felt no excitement, only silence inside my heart. The wedding day. The wedding was beautiful. The guests smiled, music played, and everyone blessed us. But I felt like I was watching someone else's life. When Daniel held my hand, I smiled, but it wasn't real. He looked at me with love, and I looked back with fear. I was scared of hurting a man who didn't deserve pain, and scared of living a life that didn't belong to me. The new life after marriage. Daniel tried his best to make me happy. He cooked breakfast, left sweet notes, brought flowers every Friday. He always said, 'I love you, Sarah.' I answered softly, 'I love you too.' But my heart whispered, 'No, you don't.' At night, he talked about our future, children, trips, dreams. And I listened, smiling on the outside, breaking on the inside. Every day, I wore a mask called happiness. The past returns. One evening, I saw an old photo of Ethan, my college love. We were young and full of dreams. We had promised to stay together forever. But life separated us. His family moved abroad, and we lost contact. When I saw his photo again, tears filled my eyes. Daniel came in and asked, 'Why are you crying?' I said quickly, 'It's nothing, just memories.' But he looked at me carefully. He knew it wasn't nothing. The truth between us. Days passed. I became quieter, more distant. Daniel finally asked one night, 'Sarah, do you love me?' The question broke me. I tried to smile, but tears ran down my face. I whispered, 'I'm sorry, Daniel. You are a good man, but I'm married without love. I wanted to make everyone happy, but I forgot myself.' He was silent for a long time. Then he said softly, 'Thank you for your honesty. I always felt your heart was somewhere else.' He didn't shout. He didn't blame me. He just looked sad, deeply sad. Ciao bettines for weeks. We barely spoke. We lived in the same house, but our hearts were far apart. I started reading, walking alone, thinking about my choices. Daniel stopped leaving flowers. He smiled less. The air between us became heavy with silence. Then one day, he said, 'Sarah, I can't make you love me. I won't keep you in a cage of kindness.' My heart trembled, because even though I didn't love him, I cared for him deeply. He was the man I wished I could love. Descuiden. We decided to separate. Peacefully. With respect. On the last day, Daniel said, 'I hope one day you find the love you were searching for.' I cried as he walked away. I felt both free and empty. For the first time, I faced my truth completely. I married without love, and love cannot be forced. Finding myself again. Months passed. I moved to another city and started teaching English. I met new people, learned new things, and slowly began to understand love, not the romantic kind, but love for myself, for life, for peace. One afternoon, I received a message from Daniel. 'I'm happy now, Sarah. Thank you for being honest. It helped me heal.' I smiled with tears. Sometimes love isn't about staying. Sometimes it's about letting go. The first night after Daniel left, The apartment felt too quiet. No sound of his steps, no soft, "Good night, Sarah." Only the ticking of the clock and the whisper of rain outside. I walked through every room. The living room, the kitchen, our bedroom. Everything was in its place, but nothing felt alive. A new beginning. I moved to a small town near the mountains. The air was fresh, and the mornings were quiet. I rented a little apartment and got a job teaching English at a school. The children's laughter healed me. Their bright eyes reminded me that life could start again. Every morning, I looked in the mirror and said, "Today, I choose peace." It wasn't easy. Sometimes I missed Daniel's kindness, his calm voice, his soft, "Take care." But I also remembered the empty space in my heart during our marriage. It taught me that love without truth is only half alive. The stranger at the bookstore. One weekend, I went to a small bookstore. It was raining, and the smell of coffee filled the air. As I looked for a book about self-love, a man beside me said, "That's a good one. It helped me too." I turned and met James. He was not like Daniel or Ethan. He wasn't perfect. He was quiet, thoughtful, with eyes that looked like they understood pain. We talked for hours about books, travel, and life. I didn't feel fireworks, but I felt peace. And that peace was new and beautiful. Friendship or something more. James and I became friends. We met at the same cafe every Saturday. He never asked about my past, and I didn't ask about his. But one day, he said, "Sarah, sometimes the people who smile the most are the ones who cried the hardest." His words touched my heart deeply. He saw through me, not the teacher, not the woman who was fine, but the soul still learning to heal. I realized then, love doesn't always come fast. Sometimes it grows slowly, like a quiet song you start to hum without noticing. The unexpected letter one morning, I received a message from Daniel. "Sarah, I'm getting married soon. I wanted you to know first. Thank you for teaching me what honesty means." I sat in silence for a long time. Then I smiled. There was no pain anymore, only gratitude. Daniel had found his happiness, and somehow that made me feel free. That evening, I told James about the message. He listened quietly and said, "Then it's time for your new chapter. Learning to love again." One evening, after our usual coffee, James looked at me and said, "Sarah, can I ask you something?" I nodded. He said softly, "Would you let someone love you, slowly, honestly, without promises, just love as it is?" I felt my eyes fill with tears, because for the first time, I wasn't afraid of love. I said, "Yes." He held my hand, gently, without pressure, and that small touch said everything. True love is peace. Months passed. We didn't rush into anything. We built trust, laughter, and quiet understanding. One night, while watching the stars, James said, "Do you ever regret marrying without love?" I smiled and answered, "No, because that mistake taught me what real love feels like." He nodded and whispered, "And what does it feel like?" I looked at him and said, "It feels like peace." The full circle years later, I sometimes tell my students, don't marry because others tell you to. Marry when your heart is ready, not when the world says it's time. Because I learned something precious. Love without truth hurts everyone, but truth, even when it hurts, sets you free. I married once without love, but now I live with love, real, quiet, patient love, and that made all the difference. It was a rainy evening. I sat near the window of my small apartment, watching the raindrops fall. The sound was soft, like tiny heartbeats on the glass. I closed my eyes and whispered, Thank you, life, for breaking me and for healing me. Every drop of rain felt like a memory. The wedding day, the quiet nights, the tears I never showed. But this rain was different. It didn't make me sad anymore. It made me feel alive. Sometimes healing doesn't happen all at once. It comes slowly, like rain that washes away pain, drop by drop. The classroom of hope. My students became my little world. Each day, I greeted them with a smile. Good morning, everyone. The children didn't understand completely, but they smiled, and that was enough. In their innocence, I found hope again. Teaching didn't just help them learn English, it helped me learn to love life again. The visit one afternoon. I heard a knock at my door. When I opened it, I froze. It was Daniel. He smiled kindly. Hi, Sarah. I was passing through this town. I heard you live here. My heart raced, not with love, but with a calm sense of closure. We sat down for tea. He told me about his wife, Anna, and how they were expecting a baby. He looked truly happy, and for the first time, I was happy for him too. Before leaving, he said, "You look peaceful, Sarah. I'm glad." After he left, I sat quietly. I realized that the story of my heart had finally ended. The part that belonged to him. The letter I never sent. That night, I wrote a letter to Daniel, not to send, but to release my feelings. Dear Daniel, I hope your days are filled with love. Thank you for showing me kindness even when I couldn't love you back. I learned that honesty can hurt, but it also heals. Our paths were meant to cross, not to stay together, but to teach each other what real love needs. Truth. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. Then I whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel." And this time, it truly was goodbye. The slow love James and I continued to meet. He never rushed me, never asked for more than I could give. His love was patient, like the sea, calm but deep. One evening he said, "Sarah, you're like a garden that finally got sunlight after a long winter." I smiled and said, "And you're like the gentle rain that helped it grow." He laughed softly and held my hand. That moment, I knew. This was love, for not burning fast, but glowing slow and steady. The confession. Months later, as we walked by the river, James stopped and said, "Sarah, I want to tell you something." I looked at him. He took a deep breath. "I love you, not for what you were, not for what you lost, but for who you've become." My eyes filled with tears. No one had ever said something so pure. I answered quietly, "I love you too, James. Not because I need someone, but because my heart is finally ready." We didn't need promises or rings. Our silence said everything. A night of reflection. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching the moonlight touch the hills. I thought of all the people who rush into love because they're afraid to be alone. I once did that too. But loneliness taught me something. Being alone is better than being with someone who doesn't truly see you. I whispered to the stars. I married without love once, but now I live with peace. And peace, I realized, is the purest form of love. The wedding invitation, Sandimasning Dembur. James came to me with a smile. He held a small box. "Sarah," he said softly, "I don't want a big wedding. I just want a quiet promise. Between us and the sky." He opened the box. Inside was a silver ring. Simple, elegant, and pure. He said, "This time, you'll marry with love." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I whispered, "Yes." It wasn't about the ring. It was about the truth behind it. The real wedding. Our wedding was small. Only close friends, flowers, and sunshine. When I looked into James's eyes, I saw everything I once thought I'd never find: trust, kindness, and peace. As we exchanged vows, I said, love isn't about perfection, it's about patience, forgiveness, and truth. This time, I marry not because I must, but because I want to. Everyone smiled. Even the wind seemed to whisper, "This is love." The epilogue, a letter to my younger self. Dear Sarah, you once married without love, and you blamed yourself for it. But now you know that mistake didn't define you. It prepared you. Because of that pain, you learned to recognize real love when it came quietly, in the form of peace. Love slowly, live gently, forgive deeply. You didn't fail at love. You just took the long way home. Sometimes, life gives us heartbreak not to destroy us, but to teach us what real love is. Sarah's story reminds us, never marry just to please others. Never say yes when your heart says no, because love is not a duty, it's a truth. And when love finally finds you, you'll know, because it will feel like peace. The morning after our small wedding, I woke up before sunrise. The light was soft and golden, and James was still asleep beside me. For a long moment, I just looked at him. His breathing was calm, his hand resting gently near mine. I smiled to myself and whispered, "This time, I'm married with love." The silence around us wasn't empty. It was peaceful. It was the sound of two hearts finally at rest. I walked to the window, opened the curtains, and felt the sunlight on my face. The world felt new again, building a new life. Our new life wasn't perfect, but it was real. Some mornings, we laughed while cooking breakfast. Other days, we argued over small things like which movie to watch, but we always ended the day holding hands. James often said, love is not about never fighting, it's about never walking away. And he was right, because now I understood that true love isn't a fairy tale. It's made of patience, small kindnesses, and quiet forgiveness. We didn't need grand gestures, we just needed honesty. The cafe memory. One weekend, we visited the town where I used to live with Daniel. There was still that small cafe by the street, the same one where I used to sit alone after my marriage ended. I stood outside for a moment, watching other people inside, laughing, talking, living. James asked gently, "Do you want to go in?" I smiled and said, "No, that chapter is closed. Let's go make new memories instead." And we walked away, hand in hand, leaving my past where it belonged, behind me. A letter from a former student. One day, a letter arrived in my mailbox. It was from Maya, my student from years ago. Dear Miss Sarah, you once told us that adults cry because their hearts are learning lessons that books can't teach. Now I understand. I just wanted to say, your words stayed with me. Thank you for teaching me not only English, but kindness. I smiled as I read it. Tears rolled down my cheeks, but they were happy tears. Sometimes, love doesn't end with romance. It lives in the kindness we leave behind. 10 years later, 10 years passed, I was still teaching. James still worked at the local newspaper. We had a small garden full of roses, and every evening we sat together watching the sunset. One evening, James looked at me and said, "Do you ever think about the past?" I nodded softly. Yes, but not with pain anymore. Every choice, even the wrong ones, brought me here. He smiled. That's how love works. It finds you when you stop running from yourself. I rested my head on his shoulder, watching the orange sky fade into pink. For the first time in my life, I wasn't dreaming of love. I was living it. A message for the world times. I write letters to my students about life. One of my favorite lessons is titled, "Don't Marry Without Love." It says, love is not a gift you receive after marriage. It is the foundation you build before it. Never marry to please others. Never say yes when your heart whispers no, because peace cannot grow from pressure, and love cannot grow from fear. When you marry, let it be for the right reason, because your heart feels safe, not silent. The final reflection. That night, as I looked at the stars, I remembered my younger self, the girl who said yes when she wanted to say no, the woman who smiled for everyone but herself. I forgave her. She did what she knew at the time, and because of her, I learned the value of truth. If I could speak to her now, I'd say, "You will cry. You will fall. But one day you will rise, not because someone saves you, but because you learn to save yourself." The Sunset Promise. As years went by, I learned one more truth. Real love is not fire, it's light. It doesn't burn you, it warms you. One evening, as we sat watching the sunset, James whispered, "Thank you for letting me love you." I looked at him and smiled. "No," I said. "Thank you for teaching me that love doesn't hurt when it's real." We sat there quietly, the golden light falling over us. Two souls who had finally found peace. The final words. And so, my story ends, not with heartbreak, but with healing. I once married without love, and it broke me. But that pain became the beginning of something greater, because through it, I learned that real love starts with truth, grows with patience, and lives forever in peace. And if someone asks me today, "Sarah, what is love?" I'll smile and say, love is coming home, not to a house, but to yourself.